Good morning, everybody. Daniel Allison, the average dude. Welcome to First Sip, the place to come to get your mind right in only 15 minutes every single weekday morning. Typically, I have somebody right here with me. His name's Freddie at Bobcat. I love Freddie's energy. I'm sure you do too. He's not here. He is coming. He's running a little bit late. Thank you, Russ Hammond, for joining us this morning. So we've got a great guest. Thankfully, the average dude doesn't have to provide the content to help us get our mind right. We've got a great new connection of mine that I want to go ahead and invite on the program. We're going to have the first sip, so get your coffee ready. As a matter of fact, see here, this is why. See, you want good, accountable people. I know that Freddie's going to show up. I know that he probably was taking his kids to school, and we're going to find out right now. Freddie, you're here, man.
Hey!
You made it.
Absolutely, I made it.
Hey, it's like a little security blanket, you know? You got to have that accountability partner.
To make it.
Hey, well, I'm glad you're here. Hopefully your internet connection is going to be good.
Yeah, men need it. We just talked about it yesterday.
Yeah. So, hey, you got a little technical issue there. You're a little grainy, but hey, we're not going to hold it against you. We still love you. we're gonna go ahead and introduce.
I was thinking it was you.
Oh, hey, well, maybe it is. We're gonna play the blame game. Let's welcome our guest and have this first sip. Carson Fox, welcome to the program.
Morning, gentlemen. Hey, guys.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
A little context here, Carson. I had been looking on LinkedIn and I saw such a specific title on that LinkedIn line, and it says super mid-sized jets for CEOs. Mm-hmm. And I love that tagline, and that caught my attention. I've never known anybody to do that. Tell us how you got into that world.
Oh, man. So was in real estate for 5 years, grew a company on the investment side. And this was directly after finishing at Citadel in Charleston. About 4 years in, took an introductory flight at Greenville Downtown Airport and just fell in love with aviation like a lot of people do. I have a positive trait, but also can sometimes be challenging as well. Whenever I really enjoy something, I obsess over it. So I kind of went back, and forth for about a year, whether or not I wanted to make that really complete change in careers, and really just felt that I would regret that decision if I didn't make it. So about a year and a half ago, I made that change, and super blessed, very grateful for the change in career, and absolutely zero regrets. So that's just basically how I got into it. My wife comes from a background of real estate as well. And I just thought, how can I pair the skills and everything that I've built over the last 5 years that is not completely starting over, that complements another industry such as aviation, specifically sales, and also, to just kind of piggyback on that as well. Someone I listened to a whole lot. I listened to about 2 kind of podcasts on a general basis. And one of the guys said one time, if you want to be, rich, solve rich people's problems. If you want to be poor, solve poor people's problems. And it really made me think, whose problems can I solve that don't have the time, but have the money to be able to hopefully take their problems away. And that really kind of helped solidify part of the decision. So
I love it. Right, Freddie? I mean, he was having success. He went to the Citadel, having success in real estate, and said, hey, I can use these skills. It reminds me of that 10X is easier than 2X, right? Hey, I have a passion. I have a desire for something. And that's why I call this flying higher, right? We can always look to find that extra energy in something that we really have a passion about. Where does that take your mind, Freddie?
Well, you mentioned leadership, and where does that leadership background come from? I noticed you got quite the resume of some leadership activities.
I mean, frankly, I grew up in the country outside of Columbia. Only child, always worked for myself pretty much on farms and whatnot. So from like a leadership standpoint, I'd say I really probably got that from both being, an only child and having to kind of figure out my own type of way of life, or find my way in a sense. But at the same time, from the Citadel is big on leadership, putting you in a lot of uncomfortable situations, but also just developing those qualities that are so simple in business and in the world that make such a big difference, such as eye contact, or being at a meeting on time, being there early, being presentable. My faith and my fitness are huge parts of my life as well. And so that always comes first as well. And I mean, even like the small things, such as like going to bed on time, so you get up on time, that those are such small things, but they make a big difference to set you for success throughout your day. So I don't know. It's really a mix of all of those things, I'd say.
And that's another point. And I'm kind of behind. We didn't do our first sip, right? I've got to take this sip of coffee.
Yeah.
This is going to be my first sip. But
well, you can have my
First
water.
step to today's success.
yeah, guys, this could be a great day. Carson, I appreciate you saying that, and we're going to do the quote of the day here shortly. But what I've noticed about some of the posts that you had on LinkedIn, we don't have to win a big deal. We don't have to sell a jet to have a great day. We have to have a productive day.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the things I noticed about one of your recent posts, right? I mean, you went for a run, you washed the car, you read a book, you did things like that. I said, I like that. It doesn't have to be a home run, does it?
No. Yeah. And to like even add on to that as well, we get so caught up, and even I catch myself up on this as well. And I just have to remind myself that we often focus on like the outcome of the day based on some big thing, such as a sale or just like a really good call or something like that. But there's a lot that leads up to that point that we have to really focus on more, because it's the actions that are most important that eventually leads to the result. And that's something I just kind of have to remind myself every single day. Just like yesterday, I had a really good call, and those really good calls eventually lead to a really strong relationship with someone, which eventually leads to a deal with this particular company. And so for me, that's big, because it's so easy to compare and look at other people's success without even knowing how long it actually took them to get where they are, or what even they did in the past to get to where they are in that specific moment.
You're winning when you're checking those boxes off, doing productive things. We're going to do the quote of the day.
Quote of the day. Quote of the day.
Words of wisdom, quotations. Carson Fox, what do you have for us this morning?
All right. So I actually have two quick ones. First one, don't know who actually put this together. Very simple, straightforward. No one owes you anything. Work for it. And to me, that's very important, because in a world filled, just with entitlement and people thinking other people owe them stuff, to me, I just know at the end of the day, it's up to me to make things happen. And I can't rely on other people to just lovingly give me what I want. It takes persistence and consistency. So for me, I love that. It's something I try to remind myself each day. Another thing is kind of a lesson, but also a quote. As income increases, oftentimes expenses increase as well. So I read business biographies, and I don't know if this is from Warren Buffett, but all great entrepreneurs think this way. Oftentimes, as a newer entrepreneur and myself in the real estate business, as income would increase, as it does over time, oftentimes you increase your expenses relative to the increase in income, but oftentimes that increase in income is your best month or whatever that is. And then you find yourself being upside down or making no money in a business that you went into business to actually make money. So keeping that in mind, is whether you're a solopreneur or entrepreneur, that is a big deal. And you should really just obsess over your expenses.
I like it. We're gonna roll right into this.
Get ready. It's time for the 2-minute skill.
Freddie at Bobcat, what is the 2-minute skill?
It just happens to be Carson's chance to teach preach, coach, or joke. Just bring us the goods in 2 minutes or less.
All right.
There it is. Carson.
So obviously I'm in the world of buying and selling jets. So people oftentimes find it very fascinating. So there's really 4 ways of owning a jet. You can charter a jet, such as like Ubering, also through something called a jet card, where you maybe buy 20 hours, prepay it, use the card whenever you want. Fractional ownership, such as NetJet or FlexJet, to where you own a percentage of that jet, and pretty much no other upkeep of it. You just hop on whenever, and you get, say, 50 or 100 hours a year. Next up from that is something called co-ownership, where maybe there's 2 good friends or 2 kind of businesses in the same geographic region that, maybe they fly 100, 150 hours a year a piece. And it may not quite make sense for them to actually own a jet outright, 100%, but they still want to own something. So maybe 2 or 3 people will actually purchase that jet and share expenses. And then the 4th, obviously, is whole ownership, which is primarily what I focus on, as well as co-ownership, but where you own 100% of it yourself. So if you are in the business and you're actually wanting to purchase a jet, it takes about 2 to 6 months. And people, think that you can just hop in and start. There's a lot that actually goes into that. So you should always be planning. If you're interested in that world, it's about 2 to 6 months. And about 85% of the 3,500 used jet transactions a year are actually in North America. So North America overall holds the largest percentage of overall aircraft in the world. So when you actually own a jet, you actually have to focus on your costs. Most people think if you buy a $10 million jet, it's not going to cost you much per year to actually own it. And depending on how you look at that, it's actually about 5 to about 20% of the purchase price per year to own. And that is just depending on how old the aircraft is, how new it is, and how large or small it is. And so there's 2 different types of costs you have to focus on: fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs are the things that stay consistent, pilots, and then variable costs is your fuel. So those are the 2 things that make up your expenses. And people think about chartering to offset that, but you really have to charter your plane about 800 hours a year to offset it completely. So it's only going to make up a small percentage of your costs, to actually break those down or to offset some of those. So anyways, that's just a little snapshot of what that looks like.
I love it. Freddie, what's your thoughts here?
Well, so when he mentioned jet card, it immediately made me think, and Carson, tell me if you recognize this guy, Jesse Itzler.
Oh yeah. He's a great guy. Really cool, unique individual.
Yeah, I think was he one of the first guys that come up with, hey, we need to get people these cards, pay in advance to fly private.
Yeah, he was, as far as I understand, one of the original people. He started a company called Marquis Jet that was then sold to NetJets.
NetJets, okay.
I think this is such a great story. I mean, honestly, it's something it's different. You've got to play the long game. Like you say, this is not a quick process to buy a jet. And there's a lot that goes into it. And I can see you I feel you obviously don't know everything about the aviation world. You're learning on the fly. But I love to see people learning about things. That's what I enjoy doing, right? It's like I've got a little bit of interest. Let's see what it takes to buy a jet, right, Carson?
Yeah. Well, so you have a question about what it looks like?
Yeah. I guess what are some of the things that you've learned, or what surprised you about that learning journey?
Well, in the world of business aviation, it is a similar buying cycle to a house, if not longer. So generally speaking, there's 2 kind of buying timeframes: every 3 to 5 years, which are a larger like private corporations and public Fortune 500 companies, and then around like 7 to 8, 9 years. And so I'm talking with a company right now, a large, like very large company that produces energy, and they have a couple of jets, and they're already planning out into 2026 and 2027. And so those are, that's a relationship. There's multiple aircraft, and it just takes a lot of planning. And that obviously relationship is a long-term play. And so you're not just going to jump into this business or, just one day decide to buy or sell a jet. There's typically a lot of planning involved because of the expense of that asset.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fascinating, interesting, great to be connected with you. Thanks for jumping on, sharing a little bit about the jet world. Freddie, final thoughts for us this morning.
I know who I'm going to buy mine from.
Hey, there you go. Hey, we'll be in touch soon. Hey, Carson, have a great day. Y'all
Absolutely,
have a good one.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet y'all.
See you.
Yep.
Bye.
Let's roll.